invited my lover to our dinner, hoping my husband would accept him. Instead, I got karma hard. I need to share this story with you all. My life has been such a mess ever since the dinner fiasco between my husband and my lover. I haven't been at ease, and I'm always on the lookout to see what my husband is going to throw at me next. Let me back it up a little so that you understand what I'm actually talking about. It all started when my husband and I decided to open our marriage. Things were going great until I invited my lover for dinner, and my husband unexpectedly got all riled up and started bashing me and my lover. The tension and drama that unfolded that night has completely consumed me ever since. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own home, constantly waiting for the next confrontation. Hello everyone, my name is Sarah, 36, and I've been married to Joseph, 47, for the past 12 years. We have a cute little daughter who just turned 10. I won't be getting my daughter involved in all of this, as I want her to stay away from all this mess. I work as a nurse at the local hospital and enjoy spending time with my daughter on weekends. Being a nurse can be emotionally draining, and over the years it has taken a toll on my relationship with Joseph. We have become emotionally distant as time went by. We had become more like flatmates than a couple who just talked about groceries, diapers, school schedules, and babysitters. There was no more spark left in our marriage, and we both knew that. Joseph and I had agreed to open our marriage a couple of years ago due to our irreconcilable differences and lack of attraction for each other. We decided to stay together for the sake of our daughter, but lead our separate lives. We wanted our daughter to be ready when we dropped the divorce bomb on her. We were both happy with our little arrangement. He gets to have his own share of affairs without bringing the drama home, and I get to focus on my own self without bothering about saving my marriage anymore. It was the perfect win-win situation for the both of us. However, as time went on, we realized that our daughter was picking up on the tension between us and it was affecting her emotionally. We knew we needed to address the situation sooner rather than later for her well-being. Ultimately, we decided it was time to have an honest conversation with her about our decision to divorce. The one thing that I did not account for was falling in love again with someone else. There was a new intern at our hospital named Steven. He was young, dynamic, funny, and a big-time flirt. He made sure that every girl around him blushed every time he opened his mouth. He was a real smooth talker. He could have easily made it big in sales if he would not have gone to med school. When Steven came along as a new intern at the hospital, it was like a breath of fresh air. He made me feel good about myself, giving compliments, and always had a broad smile on his face. I did not pay much attention to it, as I thought he was just flirty with every female he came in contact with. Slowly, I started noticing that he only complimented me and made an effort to have his shifts around the same time that I did. His compliments started changing the way I looked at myself and made an effort in dressing up and looking good. I began to feel special and appreciated in his presence, which was a welcome change from the usual stress of work. It made me realize the impact that genuine compliments and positivity can have on someone's self-esteem. Steven and I had been seeing each other for almost a year now and decided to take it forward to the next step. He had no issues with me having a daughter, which was such a blessing. I thought that it would be better to break the news of getting a divorce and moving in with Steven to Joseph and then to our daughter. I spoke to Joseph about it, and I was going to see if he had any problems inviting Steven over for dinner. He said he did not mind at all, but he would like to meet Steven alone before we introduce him to our daughter. It was quite a reasonable thing to say, so I did not think much about it and agreed that it would be just the three of us. I was happy that Joseph was taking it positively and not making a big deal out of it. I thought that this would allow Joseph to feel more comfortable with the situation before introducing Steven to their daughter. It was the weekend that Steven was to have dinner with me and Joseph. I was very excited, as it would be the first time that Steven would be coming over. I prepared all of Steven's favorite foods and put on a sexy dress, as I wanted to impress the hell out of him. Not that I needed to. I hoped that this dinner would be a turning point in our relationship, showing Joseph that Steven was important to me. As the doorbell rang, I took a deep breath and prepared to welcome him with open arms. I did not feel the guilt to quickly take a peck before Joseph joined us. I also did not mind if Joseph saw us kissing, as he was already aware of my relationship now. I felt like a teenager inviting my boyfriend over to meet my parents. It was all new and exciting. We all sat at the table and I was busy getting the food out. I could see that there was an awkward silence in the air, so I helped initiate the conversation by introducing Steven as the new intern in our hospital. I figured that this could help them get started with the conversation. As they started sharing stories about their work and discussing baseball, I got busy in the kitchen. During dinner, I could see that they were actually getting along very well. I heaved a sigh of relief that this was not a bad idea after all. I was scared for nothing. Things were actually working out pretty well and in my favor. I slowly added that Stephen adored our daughter, and I guessed that it was the biggest blunder that I made the entire evening. Joseph's expression changed when I mentioned our daughter. He threw away his glass and pulled Stephen by his collar. He started screaming at him, telling him how dare he comment on his daughter. He was still not over the fact that Stephen was sleeping with his wife, but now he gets to know that he has been trying to steal his daughter too. I had never seen Joseph this angry ever. The tension in the room was palpable as Stephen tried to defend himself, but Joseph's anger seemed to be escalating by the second. I realized then that I had unintentionally ignited a powder keg of emotions that had been simmering beneath the surface for far too long. Joseph went on a rampage after that. He started hurling abuses at the both of us. The confrontation quickly escalated into a physical altercation, with Joseph lashing out in a fit of rage. It was clear that the situation had spiraled out of control, leaving everyone in the room stunned by the sudden turn of events. I had to physically tear apart Joseph and Stephen, as it would have soon turned into a bloody battle. The chaos finally subsided after a few tense moments, but the tension in the room lingered. Joseph's outburst had left a lasting impact, which would take time to mend the fractured relationships. I had to send Stephen away to make sure that no one ends up in the hospital. The aftermath of the altercation left a palpable sense of unease in the air, with lingering resentment and hurt feelings among the three of us. It was a stark reminder of how quickly emotions can escalate and the importance of addressing conflicts before they reach a boiling point. After Stephen left, I cleared the area which had become such a mess. Joseph had locked himself in the study, but I could hear him smashing things and grunting about God knows what. I did not understand what triggered Joseph so much. He didn't even spend as much time with our daughter for him to react this way. I assumed that he already knew that I would be taking my daughter with me when we got a divorce. We never spoke about it, but I figured that it was understood. I was too scared to confront him or talk to him about the way he behaved tonight, which was very disappointing. I would rather speak to him after he calmed down. I decided to talk to Stephen and see if he was doing okay. Stephen did not pick up my calls for a really long time, which had me worried. I was scared that he wanted nothing to do with me or this relationship after the showdown today. Thankfully, he called me back after about 30 minutes and told me that he was in the shower tending to his wounds. He knew that the dinner was going to be awkward, but he never expected Joseph to physically charge at him. All in all, he was all right and was willing to accept me with all my baggage. I was over the moon listening to him comfort me. I wasn't sure what I would have done if he decided to end our relationship. After today, it was clear that I did not want to spend the rest of my life with Joseph. There was a time when I was deeply in love with Joseph, but with time we started losing that magical touch between us. We got busy with our own lives, and having a kid did not help foster our relationship, and it just fizzed out. I got busy with work and started paying less attention to home and Joseph. I didn't even have the time to sit and assess if we were happy with the life we had been living lately. Our communication dwindled, and we became more like roommates than partners. It became clear that we needed to make a change in order to rekindle the love we once had for each other. I decided to bring it up with Joseph, but he just brushed it off, saying that I was overthinking and that there was nothing wrong with our marriage. I realized that I needed to find a way to communicate my feelings more effectively and work together to improve our relationship. It was important for both of us to be open and honest about our needs and concerns in order to move forward positively. After spending almost 8 months with Stephen, I realized how much I was being underappreciated in my marriage with Joseph. After the initial honeymoon phase, I hardly remember Joseph complimenting the way I looked or how good the sex was. It was as if I was being taken for granted. It had become a chore for me to cook, clean, and take care of the house all by myself. I would have done that without any complaints had I been more appreciated for the work I do. I wasn't in a regular desk job like him, but I never complained about my aching feet as soon as I got home. I never complained about being too tired to have sex, even after making sure that the house was cleaned. In retrospect, I could only see that my time with Joseph was filled with complaints about him not liking his job, not liking the way I was not giving enough time to our daughter, not being more available at family gatherings due to my work, and I could go on and on about it. It became clear to me that our relationship was one-sided, with me constantly making sacrifices and him always finding something to complain about. I realized that I deserved someone who appreciated and valued me, rather than constantly criticizing and taking me for granted. After the terrible dinner incident, things had been pretty rough at home. Joseph started behaving like an uncivilized prick, throwing things everywhere. I was tired of picking up after him. He was always in a very grumpy and angry mood. I could see that he was scaring our daughter with his behavior. I knew that this can't go on forever and needed to be addressed. I sat Joseph down after a few days when he had calmed down. I tried to provide him with the reason for me being so indifferent towards him and our relationship. I told him that I had worked so hard to save our relationship, trying to bring it up from time to time, but he kept dismissing it, saying that I was just overthinking. I explained to Joseph that his dismissive attitude towards my efforts had hurt me deeply, and I needed him to understand the importance of communication in a relationship. I asked him to reflect on his actions and consider how we could move forward with this new relationship of mine with Stephen. I told him that Stephen does not dismiss my concerns when I bring them up to him. He listens to me and makes me feel that I have a say in our relationship. I expressed that I needed Joseph to be more open and receptive to my feelings in order for our relationship to thrive. I hoped that he would take my words to heart and make an effort to improve our communication moving forward. I still wanted us to take care of our kid and not deprive her of any of the parents' love. In order for this to happen, I knew that having a cordial relationship with each other would be of utmost importance. I did not know if my words had any impact on him. All I knew was that I had cleared my conscience and now it was up to him to decide what he wanted to do. I know that many people would think of me as a selfish bitch to leave my husband and daughter just because I was being valued and getting a little extra love from a younger male. If you were in my shoes, I am sure you would have done the same. It is not just about being underappreciated. I guess it's more about not being valued and being treated as a piece of furniture in your own house. It's important to prioritize your own happiness and well-being, even if it means making difficult decisions. Feeling unvalued and invisible in a relationship can take a toll on one's mental health and self-worth. I guess this had been a lesson I learned the hard way after being with Stephen, that I was able to know my true worth and not take shit from anyone for being able to think about my own happiness for a long time. It feels liberating, as if a weight has been lifted off my shoulders and I can breathe much more freely. Thank you everyone who has been a part of this journey with me. I will keep you posted on any major changes that take place in my life as and when I get time. I would really appreciate it if people would be kind and not be so hateful about this entire situation. I'm not sure if you guys are still interested in what had happened after the face-off between Stephen and Joseph. Anyway, things had drastically changed after that encounter, which obviously did not sit well with Joseph. After my talk with Joseph, I had expected things to get better. On the contrary, he started making it more and more difficult for me. He sent me flowers to the hospital one day. I was happy that maybe he had finally understood what I had been going through. It had an audio card with it. I played it, which was way too loud. It had his own recording stating that I was having an affair and wanted him to be happy seeing his wife sleep with someone else. Everyone around me could hear what exactly was on it. It wasn't difficult for people to add two and two together and figure out about my affair with Stephen. It was embarrassing for the both of us, as we kept getting unnecessary attention from everyone in the hospital. I thought that it would stop here, as this would have satisfied his ego. After a few days, he sent pictures of me and Stephen in a medical folder addressed to our hospital head as urgent and confidential. He assumed it to be a critical case, but it was just me and Stephen having sex in various positions. I must say that the pictures were quite graphic. We were both called in the dean's office to explain ourselves. Some of the pictures were taken in the hospital during our night shifts. We had to write apologies and get behavioral suspension for a few weeks. I had had enough of these tantrums from Joseph, so I decided to confront him and yell at him for making our lives miserable. I was staying with Stephen for almost 2 months now. He did not even let me meet our daughter. I went home and waited for him to show up. As expected, he came home alone without our daughter. I wonder where he had been hiding her. I asked him if he had been having fun trying to ruin my life. He had a smirk on his face and told me that he was just getting started. There was so much more in store that he had. I asked him to stop doing all this and let me meet my daughter. He said that the moment I walked out of the door, I had ended any relationship with everyone in this house. I didn't know if he was drunk or if he was too upset about everything. I started demanding him to call our daughter, as I wanted to take her with me. He laughed very loudly and said that I would be out of my mind to even request such stupid things. I knew that there was no point in talking to him anymore, so I just left. I went to my daughter's school and picked her up. I knew that my daughter had every right to know about what has been going on in our lives. I wish she didn't have to go through all of this at such an early age, but I knew my daughter would be understanding and supportive about it. I tried to make it as simple as possible for her to process what has been going on. Surprisingly, kids these days know so much more about relationships than adults. She told me that I should do what makes me happy. She was okay with staying with her dad if I wanted some time alone with my boyfriend. I had tears in my eyes and hugged her tightly because at least she has a better understanding of my situation than Joseph. She mumbled that I was a selfish bitch for leaving her father and her all alone just for my own happiness. She pushed me and told me that she hated me and did not want to see me ever again. I fell on the ground and started weeping as those words stung very hard. Within a week, I received the notice for divorce. I was glad that at least one of the problems would be solved soon. I would slowly get my daughter back with time and we would be a happy family again. There was a clause which said that because I was caught in adultery, I can't request custody of my daughter. That was like a shocking news as I so badly wanted to live with her. I decided to go to court and fight for custody. The trail was going to be long and tiring. I had Stephen to support me, so I did not mind taking up this task. My husband had a lot of evidence of me neglecting my daughter to spend time with my lover, ignoring important days in my kid's life to enjoy myself. I had no idea how he got all these pictures and no points in guessing that I lost the case for custody. I was devastated and in depression for a long time after that. Even spending time with Stephen did not bring me joy. I was not allowed to visit my daughter as she herself said that she did not want to see me ever. In court, she said that she was very happy with her father and wanted to stay with him. The world around me kept crumbling. I was given a 3-month break at work as I was making a lot of mistakes. I felt that it was all justified and was always in bed snuggled up thinking how my life turned a total 180 in the past few months. I decided to go out for some fresh air one day and saw a familiar-looking car parked near Stefan's house. I immediately knew that it was Joseph's. He had no business being here as there was nothing more that he could take away from me. I decided to sneak up and see what the hell was going on. I saw him smiling and laughing to Stephen with a beer in his hand, thanking him for everything. I could not believe that they were together and laughing at that. It was like a shocker that I wasn't expecting. How could Stephen be laughing with the man who ruined my entire life? He had been seeing how miserable I had been for the past few months. I quickly ran inside the house, unable to understand what was going on. Either I was hallucinating or I had gone crazy thinking about various scenarios in my head. I needed answers, so I went over to Stephen's laptop and started searching. I opened his email and saw that he was the one sending our pictures to Joseph and all other information that led to me losing the custody to my daughter. I could not believe that these two men were involved and planned to ruin my life together. I confronted Stephen and asked him about the emails with proof. There was no way that he could deny it. He laughed and told me that it took me so much time to figure it out. He expected me to figure it out the moment I saw the pictures. He told me that he was helping Joseph because his sister was Joseph's girlfriend and they could only get married with me out of the way. He loved his sister way too much and would have done anything for her. I could not believe what he was saying. This was the guy I fell in love with and had been spending almost 2 years with. How could he not love me even once and do this to me? He asked me to pack my bags and get out of his house once I was done crying. He was getting too tired of my drama anyway. I packed my stuff and went to a motel. I cried for weeks for being such a dumb person and trusting Stephen. It is my fault that I ruined my life. I should have been cautious if it looked too good to be true. Lesson learned the hard way. Don't trust anyone except your own self. I have slowly started picking up my life. I moved to a different neighborhood and applied as a nurse in a different hospital. I am slowly going to start leading a normal life, but never in my life will I be able to trust anyone ever. Thank you everyone for being there through my journey. I hope you learn from my mistakes and not be a selfish bitch like I was.